Nitrogen is the second largest nutrient cycle on the planet. The first one is actually carbon. So nitrogen is extremely abundant in the atmosphere. It makes up about 78% of the Earth's atmosphere. All organisms will require nitrogen to make amino acid, proteins, and DNA. However, it's not easy for most organisms to acquire nitrogen directly from the abiotic environment. Because nitrogen molecules, they are very, very stable. And unlike carbon, our body cannot convert nitrogen into a usable form. We do not have the right enzyme to capture or fix the atmospheric nitrogen. How do you think we get the nitrogen we need? It's through the nitrogen cycle. If you compare to the carbon cycle, it moves through the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the lithosphere. But the nitrogen cycles, they involve mostly underground. It takes place a bit on the atmosphere, but most of the time is involve the lithosphere or the underground. So there are a few processes here. From the atmospheric nitrogen, it undergoes process of nitrogen fixation by bacteria in plant roots or in soil. From the atmospheric nitrogen, it can be converted into ammonia through nitrogen fixation. And then ammonia can also be produced by waste or also dead organism where they undergoes decomposition and finally produce ammonia in a process called ammonification. So this is how the ammonia is formed. And then from ammonia, they can produce nitrates by nitrifying bacteria by nitrification process, or they can be assimilated. That means that it's distributed or absorbed by plants or other living organisms. From nitrates, it can be converted back to atmospheric nitrogen through a process of denitrification by using denitrifying bacteria. If you see, this process does not involve the hydrosphere. We get the nitrogen we need through assimilation process. Most of the nitrogen used by living things is taken from the atmosphere by certain bacteria in a process called nitrogen fixation. So this microorganism will convert a nitrogen gas into a variety of nitrogen containing compounds including nitrates, nitrites, and also ammonia. So this is the reaction from nitrogen gas, how it can be converted into ammonia. The nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil. So the first one is cyanobacteria. It is present in soil and water. It's like a blue-green algae. And then another type of bacteria is Rhizobium. So these bacteria live in root noodles of legume plants such as peas, alfalfa, locust trees, peanuts, and everything. So here they have a mutual understanding between the plant and also the bacteria. What happened here, the bacteria will produce ammonia in exchange of carbohydrates. And then we can also have some nitrogen formed through lightning. So a small amount of nitrogen gas is converted to usable form by lightning in a process called atmospheric nitrogen fixation. So it has been estimated that about 5 to 10 billion kilogram per year of nitrogen are fixed by lightning strikes. The next process is nitrification. Nitrogen is absorbed by plant primarily as nitrate. So in nature, nitrification is catalyzed by two groups of bacteria, which is Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. Nitrosomonas bacteria brings about the transition of ammonia to nitrite. However, nitrite is very toxic to plants. So Nitrobacter will mediate the oxidation of nitrite to nitrate, which can be easily taken up by plants as nutrients. So both of these function only in the presence of molecular oxygen. So they are also chemolithotrophic, which means that they can utilize oxidizable inorganic materials as electron donors in oxidation reaction to yield needed energy for the metabolic processes. So these two bacteria, they are very sensitive to acidity. This process does not occur in acidic soil or water. So the next process is assimilation. This is how plants or organisms receive the oxygen they need. Plants can absorb nitrate or ammonium from the soil by their root hair. If nitrate is absorbed, it is firstly reduced to nitrite ions and then ammonia ions. This will be incorporated into amino acid, nucleic acid, and also chlorophyll. And then the consumer, which include us, then get the nitrogen they need by eating plants or other organisms. This process shows that the nitrogen that we need is passed through from producer, which is the plants, to consumer, and then it can move up the food chain. So the consumer will eat the producer, and we use nitrogen to make our own nitrogen containing compound. The next process is ammonification. Ammonia is released when a plant or animal dies or animal expel waste. So the released ammonia in the soil are converted back into ammonium or is broken down by nitrifying bacteria in the soil to be used by plants. And then we have denitrification. So here nitrite and nitrate in soil are either recycled again by microorganism or they are converted back to nitrogen gas by denitrifying bacteria. So this process performed by bacterial species such as Pseudomonas and Paracoccus under anaerobic condition. For example, in waterlogged soils. So they use nitrite as an electron acceptor in the place of oxygen during respiration. So there is a few bacteria involved in the nitrogen cycle. We have here those that are involved in nitrogen fixation, which are cyanobacteria or rhizobium. And then we have those that are involved in nitrification, which are known as Nitrosomonas and also Nitrobacter. And then we also have denitrifying bacteria, which are Pseudomonas and also Paracoccus. So this flow diagram shows summarize the overall process of nitrogen cycle, which occurs in the environment. The impact of a human to the nitrogen cycles include the use of nitrogen-rich fertilizer, where we can add too much of nitrogen in water or soil, and then the increase of nitrogen level will cause the plants to grow too rapidly until they have used up all their supplies and die, and then runoff of nitrogen to aquatic system, where the major effect of fertilizers runoff in salt water and fresh water has caused the formation of eutrophication. What happened is that in this process, the nutrient runoff have caused the overgrowth or bloom of algae or other microorganisms. So this graph shows the global trend in the annual inputs of nitrogen in the environment from human activities. So human activities such as production and use of fertilizers now fix or put into environment more nitrogen than all annual sources combined. Livestock waste add large amounts of nitrogen into soil and water. It can also cause the nitrogen to be removed from soil through crops harvesting, irrigation and deforestation, and then adding too much nitrogen oxide or nitrogen dioxide to the atmosphere through combustion of fossil fuel has caused the production of acid rain, removing of nitrogen from the crust by mining.